I take it you do post-editing after the fact?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If I just did it like strictly like how it was.
Yeah. It wouldn't be like live.
Yeah. Sometimes I put like the bloopers, I guess, like some stuff that I take out. I just put it at like the beginning because it's kind of funny.
Literally, like if I just wanted to, like if I was gonna make some music, I could use that as well. But
Do you make any music?
Nah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, dude, I have like no musical talent.
Yeah, especially like singing. That's not me.
Yeah, not at all.
I don't think I have any really musical talent.
I have to go pee really bad. Can we pause this and then I'm gonna go pee?
Yeah. I'll just leave that one. I mean, unless you want to wrap it up real quick, because
How long have we been on for?
almost 2 hours.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's probably good.
Yeah, if you want to wrap it up, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. That's. So I just have an intro on there. I used to do like introduce everybody, but it's just easier just to
Yeah.
get into it and talk about whatever you want to.
So are you ready for Donald Trump to be your president again in March?
In March.
No, that's like the QAnon conspiracy, is that Joe Biden's dead, Nancy Pelosi's been locked up, and Donald Trump's going to reemerge as the president on March 4th, supposedly.
Yeah.
According
See,
to QAnon.
that's one thing I forgot to even say that. Never do politics on my podcast.
Never do politics?
No. I should, but there's too many people that would just be like, throw out my podcast completely just because they don't like the opinions that are shared.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, right now, for at least now, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
share my own. I mean, that's okay if you want to, but...
Yeah, I feel it. I mean, that's understandable, especially like the old phrase of never discuss religion or politics. You gotta like actually like talk to somebody that's can stay like level-minded, and even the ones that say that they can stay level-minded, it's still like once you
There's
start
always bias around
Yeah.
people talking.
See, with me, whenever it comes to like politics and shit like that, I don't get biased because I don't want to say like I know what's going on,
Yeah.
but like I know too much, so to speak.
What? So, I don't know. Explain how you would understand, or I guess explain how you would know too much. Like what makes it so that you know too much?
I mean, dude, it's just like it really is just follow the money. Follow the money, and that'll just tell you whatever you need to know.
Do you like study it, or is it just like a part of your job, or?
I mean, it does affect my job. Like with the, they were anticipating massive riots and whatnot during the inauguration, and so we had to like beef up security and whatnot and work overtime, which is kind of interesting that the world events actually like do affect my job. There's a lot of parts of my job that I can't talk about, but yeah, no, it's not so much that. It's just me. I've kind of like a dark heart.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just follow this kind of shit. It's probably not good for my health.
Yeah.
Like at all.
You go down those rabbit holes and see, you know, you get too far deep into things. Question.
It's not even
you're like curious about, you question things a lot.
Yeah, it's not even like so much like going down to a rabbit hole, because like I think nowadays like modern dialogue is so saturated with like all these like what I was talking about with like the March 4th thing, like all this like crazy shit like about like 5G or chemtrails and whatnot, and oftentimes truth is way stranger than fiction if you actually follow the shit that goes on. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know where we're gonna be in like a couple years, just in the sense of like literally everything's being sold to the highest bidder, like these special interest groups, what so have you, like the politicians and whatnot. Like whenever you discuss politics, like if you discuss it with me, you have to come with the knowledge that these people don't represent you. Yeah. And they're literally just there to give you the illusion of choice.
Yeah, I had a friend on my last podcast, and he was like, the meaning of a politician, you're supposed to be a public servant, and we're at the point where it's not. It has no correlation to what it actually is. Like, they're not sacrificing what they, you know, they're not sacrificing themselves for you. They're just
Exactly.
It's a job.
Yeah, there is no like public service. It's all for like the popularity contest. Who wins the popularity contest, and whoever wins that makes a shit ton of money. I forget where I heard it, but it remains true. Once you understand that American politics is just about stealing tax dollars, then you understand why things are done a certain way.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as like with Biden like passing the initiative to limit fossil fuels with like what do you call it? Our cars. Like they're trying to
gasoline,
move from
yeah.
gas cars to electric cars.
Yeah.
Well, right before they announced that initiative, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, buys a shit ton of stock in Tesla.
Yeah.
Right after they make legislation to try to move forward. Like, shit like that. Like the self-serving, like Jared Kushner, during that COVID relief bill, this should piss everybody off. He made a shell company. And part of that COVID relief bill, they sent $500 million to that shell company. Jared Kushner just redistributed it amongst the Trump family.
Yeah.
Like, shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So explain briefly, like, your job.
I
don't even know that I quite know.
I'm a programmer for a private security firm.
So what do you do, like, on a daily basis?
From a daily basis, I mean, like, it's a lot of, like, project management and, like, you do the grunt work, which at least I've started to move away from that. You do the grunt work, which is, like, if somebody buys a new alarm system, we're talking, like, typically what we do is financial institutions or commercial institutions. Whenever you buy this alarm system, the technician has to go out there, obviously install it. Me as a programmer, we program it. We bring it to standard, which is essentially just enabling the things that the customer pays for, disabling the things that they don't. These jobs like range from like a small, we do every Starbucks in the entire continent of North America. We do their DVR systems as well as their alarm systems. Easy installs. They'll fit like a Starbucks in a utility closet if they wanted to. And so from Starbucks all the way to like Value City Furniture, like Dick's Sporting Goods, these massive buildings with 100 points on them and whatnot, and we program them. We don't program from scratch for the most part unless we have like templates and whatnot, but that's just like the general stuff, and then you get into the more shit you can't talk about.
Yeah.
Like,
what would that be? Like, I mean, I don't know how much you can really say about that, but
like, it's more so, I don't even know.
What is it there for? Like,
what do you mean?
You're talking about like systems and monitoring and
It's just an alarm system.
Just an alarm system?
Yeah, I mean, like, you get from like door access controls to retinal scanners to like high end to just like basic shit, like just covering your apartment. We don't do very much residential stuff, but like we do every single PNC in the entire United States.
Yeah.
KeyBank, Citigroup, all those guys. Those are all our customers. We do their DVR systems and alarm systems and whatnot. And I can say that we work with them. I just can't say what we do. We work with the United States Marshals, U.S. Marshals and whatnot. Okay. And work with. That's when you get to the shit you can't talk about.
Yeah, when you start to get into
government.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, Securitas is actually an international company, and since they're based out of Switzerland, they can't have government contracts. So what they did is they just bought a company that can have government contracts. So now we're doing military bases, etc.
Yeah, that's when it starts, you know.
Yeah, then you can't talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Area 51 type stuff.
Not that deep, not that I'm aware of, I mean
it could be, right?
Could be. Yeah. I mean, if there's a place like Area 51 that we do alarm systems for, you would never know that that's what they're actually doing there. Everything's need to know basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people do you usually like work with?
My team it's gotten a lot bigger. It used to be pretty small, like in terms of like who I work with at my job. Probably about like, used to only be like 8 of us. Now I think there's like 20 of us.
So are you just like strictly programming?
I do programming. I'm also a web administrator.
Okay.
For SecureStat. SecureStat basically gives you the ability to control your own monitoring. You can place service calls, etc. If you have like networking, like a VPN set up in between us and your alarm system. You can just add users yourself, door access control systems, etc. You can just do that all from your website. And I manage the website as an administrator, and I hate it because it's like you deal with, I don't want to say like boomers, but it's a lot of like, you're talking to like CEOs of some of the biggest financial companies in the world, whether it be the Fulton Financial Corporation, or whether it be the First Federal of the Midwest, etc., Citibank, and whatnot. I forget where I was going with that. It'll come back to me. What did you say before I went on that tirade?
I have no idea.
I don't remember.
Sometimes I just get lost in it. I'm like, he said boomers. They're not exactly boomers.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I thought you were getting at, but I didn't.
You talk to older people a lot of the time, and like trying to explain to somebody how to like use a snippet tool on their desktop.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, yeah, because most of the people that are millionaires and billionaires and people that are running these and CEOs, they're usually at least past 30, like well into their 50s, I would imagine.
And some of them are like savvy enough, but I mean, whenever it comes to like the intricacies or like the amount of moving parts that goes into that big of a website and all the capabilities that the website is able to do, trying to help somebody that's not that tech savvy through something like that, it's it can get frustrating.
Yeah, it'd probably be like helping me. Like, I know just enough to do what I do, but above that, I'm clueless. Like,
most of it's just like shit you want to know anyways. Like, if you don't log into the website within 90 days, it disables the account. You wouldn't know that. It's not going to tell you that. You're just not going to be able to log in until you call us and bitch about it, and then we'll fix it for you.
Yeah, that stuff, that frustrates me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure as much as you're frustrated, the people on the other end of that are probably like 10 times more frustrated because they don't understand it. Like, they don't get what's going on.
And it's a whole bunch of like, you can do this as long as you have this, but you can't do that, and if you do this, then you won't have the ability to do that. Well, all right, you can make this change, but now this isn't going to work. And trying to like get them to, because whether it's like a PSA for PNC or whether it's somebody higher up in Citibank and whatnot, the customer's always right attitude. What's nice about my job is that that's not the case.
Yeah.
You don't have to like you don't have to take abuse the same way a retail employer or a retail employee would have to, because the thing is like, you come to me and this is my domain. Don't act like you know everything.
Yeah, you're not
especially
really
like when I'm trying to help you.
It's not really like you're selling a product.
Exactly.
It's more like you have a service, and that's a little bit different.
Yeah, like you're coming to me with a problem with the web administration side of things, with the programming side of things. That's more so just like nobody gets paid until I sign off on it, kind of thing. Like the technician doesn't get paid for doing the job, the customer doesn't get billed until the job's finished. And what's actually interesting is the monitoring agreement and the confirmation for the New York Times actually has my name on it.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty that's like next level almost, I guess.
Yeah, I did. I signed off on Larry Silverstein, his apartment. We looked it up, we Googled it afterwards, which probably not supposed to do that. We Googled his address and the apartment. Dude, that apartment, it costs like, bro, like some insane numbers, like 30 grand a month to live there.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's like upscale New York penthouse level.
I couldn't afford a year there, you know, with a loan. With a loan, I couldn't afford a year there.
Right. That's like 75% of my year's salary.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's just like when you see the amount of money that's in this kind of thing.
Yeah, that's I have two questions, but the first question is when you first said you don't know where it's gonna be in the next couple years, like this world, where do you think everything is going? Where do you think that we're headed to?
I think it's, and this isn't a conspiracy. When I say that this isn't a conspiracy, let's do this. Oh, I didn't bring my cash with me. On your dollar bill, underneath that pyramid, that Latin translates to a new world order. So literally written on your dollar bill, it's on the Washington Monument. It's literally like engraved in the architecture of like George Washington was a Freemason.
Yeah.
As a Mason, you're a builder, a creator, and their whole thing is creating a new world. Anyways, whenever you look at the 1% of the 1%, like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, etc., there's an interesting document. You can Google this too. Like, the thing, like, let me say this before I go any further. I don't talk about it unless I know about it and unless it's, like, confirmed. There's an actual document that you can download. It's the Rockefeller report for 2010, I want to say. And in that report, they predicted that it was going to happen 2 years beforehand. But again, this is the Rockefellers. This is the 1% of the 1%. They predicted it was going to happen in 2018. They said the world will be gripped by a global pandemic, the last of the remaining, like, any country that's not on the central banking system is essentially going to get taken out.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, fast forward to 2020, you have your COVID-19. They also mention a whole bunch of stuff. It's the Rockefeller report. What they're talking about is Operation Lockstep. And what's interesting is that they have this whole bunch of different shit that you wouldn't think, like, would correlate with what they're talking about. It's just like random bullshit. But they said, like, in Kenya, there would be a revolt where the people would overthrow the ruling family. Fast forward to 2020, the Kenyan royal family is withholding COVID relief. And they're raiding, like, a lot of the royal family. I don't know that they've been overthrown, but there's turmoil in Kenya. All the shit that they talked about in 2010 is happening now.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of these conspiracy theories, the reason that people follow onto them and people catch onto them and they want to believe it is because it's not far unbelievable. Like, to the average person, it's like, wow, that's really happening, or wow, that's really gonna happen. I don't think so. But when you really, like, take the steps and you see certain things happening and you correlate them together, it does seem like we're headed towards some of these things.
Yeah, like is essentially, I don't think there's going to be an announcement. I think it'll happen quietly. But just, you know, corporate control of everything, the New World Order. I mean, like, there's only a couple countries that aren't on the central banking system. One of them is Iran. Yeah. And look at what we're doing to Iran.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean,
you can call it coincidence, but
they're next on the hit list. I mean, it's the same thing as, like, with Assad and whatnot, and Syria, all that shit. That's why those guys won't give up their nukes, because they know as soon as they give up their nukes, we're coming.
Yeah.
It's just, so, I mean, and with, again, like, to talk about politics, I mean, with Joe Biden was Obama's vice president. They bombed the fuck out of those countries the entire time that administration was in power. I'd imagine that's going to start up again in order to facilitate this quote-unquote New World Order.
Yeah. What do you think that would entail? Like, what comes from that?
Just all the shit we're dealing with now. I mean, just absolute control. I mean, big tech with Twitter and YouTube, they censoring people. I mean, literally just the ruling class just rules everything with facial recognition software, etc. I mean, like,
people getting banned, like the president getting banned, and then you think of all the other people that have spoke about certain things and they're getting banned.
Wall Street Bets, the shit with GameStop, man.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, that was insane.
Yeah, dude.
Honestly, if anybody keeps track of, like, stocks and stuff and actually seen what happened with it, that was insane.
I'll give you the short story, because this is if they call themselves anything, I doubt they call themselves the Illuminati, but them pulling their strings. So, like, that GameStop obviously exploded, so they loaned those shares with the expectation that they would have to buy them back. They loaned them out for 40. They buy them back for whatever the fuck it's worth. They're betting on GameStop going out of business, and let's be honest, it probably is here pretty quick with the way consoles and whatnot, with digital downloads, etc.
That was insane too.
Yeah. So it explodes. They now have to buy back all these shares at 400 something. At its height, I think it was like 470. Anyways, Melvin Capital is the one that shorted those stocks. Once the stocks got so high, Robinhood stopped everybody from investing. Now, what's interesting is Citadel. Have you heard about Citadel?
I've heard of them. I don't know it.
Citadel owns Melvin Capital. Guess what else they own? Robinhood. And so they effectively manipulated the stock market and got that shit to plummet so they didn't have to lose all their money. And the downside is like, let's say that Wall Street Bets was successful, we still would have had to foot the bill, me and you, with our tax dollars. They would have got a bailout. But to speak on the tech censoring is that they were, if you had, like, you used hashtag Wall Street Bets or whatever it was, or if you were hopping on the train doing all those things, they were banning you. Censoring you, so you weren't allowed to talk about it. I mean, we were all okay with it whenever it happened to Donald Trump, but I mean, they now set a precedent where they get to pick and choose who gets to say what.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say something, but that gets to a point where, they are able to do that. It's not like written that they can't, but also it's really fucked up that they do that, because freedom of speech, I guess there's a line, because you don't, as, what do you call it, a business? Do you call social media like a business? Like,
I mean, it's a double-edged sword,
as
man.
a business, you don't have to accept everybody into your business. You don't have to let them do whatever they want in your business. You can kick somebody out. And the difference with social media is that it's a platform for people to speak out. That's our main source of that's our main source of communication in 2021.
Yeah.
So to take somebody off of that completely, that just like defeats. It's like a double-edged
sword. You're gonna come to like the point of like, with the emerging new technology, there's no legislature for these things. Is it a public utility the same way a police department is a public utility, or a fire department, etc., or the way, personal opinion, healthcare should be? Like, where you're gonna move away from, it's a private platform, technically you can do whatever you want with it, but is this an infringement on the Constitution? I mean, I don't think anybody really has the answer, and clearly they're gonna do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter anyways.
Yeah. I just think it's crazy because it does have an effect. So with the whole, like, election thing, when they were saying it's rigged in like this, and Trump is getting banned from saying certain things, and like certain things are affecting people.
It wasn't just him, it was a lot of people on the right.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know how to explain that. I don't know where I was going. Like, I
know what you were saying. I was having the conversation with a buddy of mine. Like, it's not fraud in the sense of like voter fraud, but is it like meddling in the election?
Yeah, and it comes from both sides. I mean, I'm pretty in between on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
where most people are, let's be honest, centrist, moderates.
Yes and no, where most people should be, but everybody, it's at a point where we're so divided that you have to pick a side pretty much for everybody, I feel like.
Yeah.
But me, I'm right down the middle on most things.
Me too.
And it's just like, you can't cancel out somebody's, Joe Rogan said it on his podcast. He said the best way to take bad information or misinformation is to put good information.
Yeah. To combat it, to have some discourse.
And when you take somebody out completely, it makes it look like you're trying to hide something.
And the thing is, too, like, people are supporting this. They're, like, applauding it because they're happy that it's happening to right-wing people. But, again, I mean, it's just a matter of time. Like, it's the whole thing with, like, the cancel culture. Like, you're never going to be woke enough. Eventually, you're going to consume one another and turn on each other.
Yeah, because, honestly, if Biden does something that the main people that are pulling all the strings, that 1% of the 1%, he says something that really they don't want happening, he's gonna get cut off too.
Yeah.
Like,
it just fits their agenda for right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, until the next thing comes along, and then people are like, you let it. What can you do though? Like, what are you gonna like? You can't use violence against these people. Like, and essentially
they have more money they could buy the world, essentially. I mean, you think about Jeff Bezos and how much money he has, or in assets, like, it's
insane.
Yeah.
Literally insane.
I mean, he's probably first to be a trillionaire. If not, it's going to be
Musk.
Yeah, Musk or Gates.
Yeah.
One of the three. Those are the three powerhouse guys right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Zuckerbergs, the Dorseys, the Musks, those are all going to be the future Rockefellers, the future Rothschilds, the ones that pull. Now, granted, like, the central banking system will always be, because they control everything. They're the ones that make the money.
Yeah.
You know, like they will ultimately be in power.
Yeah, they'll ride along with it, you know?
Yeah.
Everything you see, they'll be right there with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's you can get discouraged from it, but you can't allow yourself to get discouraged from it because it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Anyways, what's even more, it's kind of mind-boggling because like with the Jeffrey Epstein shit, like you watch them pull their strings.
That's a whole different ballgame than what we've even been talking about. But that's like, yeah, I don't even know what to say about that because it's so essentially it did go away.
Yeah.
Essentially, what have you heard about that since last year, beginning of last year?
That's what they're hoping for.
Yeah, and everybody just forgot about it. Meanwhile, they have somebody in custody that was a part of the whole thing.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
And nobody's like, I don't know that she's released any information.
Yeah, it's just because it's like, it's not big news. Everybody just follows what is trending.
Yeah.
And that's really bad because then we start to forget things that have happened.
Super important shit.
You know, especially with the year 2020 when everything was just left and right and it just keeps piling up. This and this and this and this and this and this. And you start to lose track of, we had murder hornets, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
that just kind of like went away.
Yeah, like every little thing, you just went to the next.
Yeah.
But you're missing all this other stuff. And now they can just put the next thing and you're going to completely dismiss all the things that happened before.
Yeah, it's because like, the reason why I brought up Jeffrey Epstein is because like whenever we're talking about the Musks, the Rothschilds, etc., is that in a way that amount of money and power is all connected. Like when you have Bill Clinton that's rode on that plane X amount of times, when you have all these people that were supposedly on the island, when you have British royalty that was on the island, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then this dude gets captured. Make no mistake, he got murdered in a cell, and the cameras just so happened to be off.
Yeah.
And then supposedly they found the footage, but then they accidentally deleted it. And it's like, then the judge who was investigating, I want to say it was either a bank or it was a hedge fund that was helping like financially support Fuck Island, Jeffrey Epstein's island. The judge who was investigating them gets murked by a FedEx guy.
Yeah.
Her and her son. And then the FedEx guy leaves, goes to wherever he went to, and then kills himself.
Yeah. Just so happens.
Yeah.
Like, anybody who pays any attention and has any sort of common sense knows that this, and it just makes
It's
it
not
look
even a
more,
conspiracy, you know?
Yeah, it makes it look more guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it makes everybody just look 10 times worse because you did these things. And that's like what we're seeing all across the board with certain things, like talking about social media like that. Mm-hmm. But that's another thing, too. It's just like, how many times can you sweep things under the rug and expect people not to notice?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like what Joe says. I mean, we're living in a fucking movie. Like, It's just like, so much has happened. Like, I feel like the only way to, like, level up is, like, release the aliens. Like, just get invaded.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, because, I mean, what more?
Well, I mean, they are. Honestly, they are. They have, I forget, the military. They released all their UFO sightings and everything. All the information on it. There's pages. Like, I started reading them and I was like, this is stuff from like 1970 to current.
Yeah.
Pages. There's like probably 800 pages of UFO sightings from military documents.
Yeah, and then you like hear Bob Lazar's story, which is absolutely wild.
Yeah, that is wild. And that they covered that up way back then.
Yeah, like, wasn't it that, like, if he had any reason to lie, wasn't it like why would they go through, he went to renew his license, I want to say, and they're like, sir, you effectively don't exist in the system. So if he was lying about what he was talking about, why did they go through so much effort to essentially wipe out his identity and make sure that he didn't even exist?
Yeah. There was a guy, I don't know if it's the same guy, there was a guy that was in a logging accident, or he was a logger. Is that the same guy? Or no?
Bob Lazar?
He was on Joe Rogan's podcast.
No. Bob Lazar, he's like literally a super genius. He got introduced to Area S4, which I guess is supposed to be like an offshoot of Area 51, because he put a jet engine in the back of a Volkswagen. And they're like, we want that guy.
You ever think that some of the, like, Back to the Future has happened. Have you seen the conspiracy with Trump and Barron Trump from way back when? And
No, sounds like a bunch of bullshit though.
yeah, well, they said there's a story about Barron Trump and how he, I don't know. There's like so many things. I wish I could find it, but I just want to look up this real quick. I need like what's that guy called on Joe Rogan?
Jamie?
Yeah. I need somebody to just like search stuff. Hey, search that up real quick. That would be helpful.
But just to kind of backtrack a little bit, that's why I don't take politics too seriously, is just because of all the shit that we were talking about.
I'm just trying to find this real quick.
Oh, you're fine, dude.
But
take your time.
I think I went too far.
If I'm talking too fast, let me know.
Oh no, that's actually pretty good because I talk slow and it's like keeping me
Yeah.
going on to the next thing.
It's good yin and yang.
Yeah. I think Brian Fogel was his name. Yeah. Alright, so anyway, this guy, he's a logger. He's out in the woods with like 6 other guys. It's middle of night and they're wrapping up their end of the day logging. And this UFO, there's this blue light that comes down and all these guys that are in this little team of loggers run to the truck. And they're like, what is that? And then this guy gets out of the truck and he goes and gets something. He gets stuck or something and the light picks him up, takes him. He just disappears. The cops actually filed a missing person case on him. They thought those guys killed him and buried him under the log pile. He was gone completely. He has a story. He wrote a book, and there's a movie about him as well. I forget what it's called, but I'll have to look it up too. He had a book about it and everything that happened. Him and one of the co-workers had a fight earlier that day. Okay? So, for all their stories to line up completely, and they got interviewed by different people as well. All their stories lined up. If that was fake, that situation was fake, they explained that one of those guys would rat him out because they didn't really like him anyways. Like, why wouldn't they just be like, he's making this stuff up?
Yeah.
But he said he was in the UFO and there were these people and they were doing stuff to him and there was like, it was aliens. Like, he explained that. And it was a whole investigation and there was another camper in the woods as well, far out. Said they saw the blue light. And multiple people in different neighborhoods said it too. Swept under the table, called him crazy.
Yeah, I mean, aliens is almost like, whenever you talk to people about it, it's like almost on par with Bigfoot. It's like, it's gonna be kind of hard to like pick out the crazies from whoever might have legitimately had this experience.
Well, and it's so easy for somebody to say you're crazy because there's no documentation. There's nothing that you can concretely say this is real.
Yeah. It's the thing with aliens for me is, granted, like nowadays with like Bob Lazar and the military footage and whatnot, and how like what you were saying, like the stories coinciding with one another, all these like military footages and all of Bob Lazar's recounts, they all talk about like these tic-tac looking machines that can like drop from, like, I think one of the pilots said it dropped like 20,000 feet in like a second.
Too. And the story hasn't changed from in the 70s.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. But it hasn't changed since then. And he says all these things that are happening. And he says, here's what I think happened, here's my speculation, here's what I've learned, here's what actually happened. So he separates it to 3 different sections so you don't have to assume. Like, he's going to tell you the truth, and then he's going to tell you what he thinks happened. So it's separated. Yeah. So he knows what's real and what he's assuming. And that makes a big difference as well.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
If somebody has, like, an experience like that, and they're just telling you what they think and what they assume, that's completely different than actual facts.
Yeah. It's just, with aliens, the thing that, like, is kind of like, whenever you talk about it, like, you think of how fucking far these solar systems actually are from one another. And for an organism to be able to survive, like whenever you think of a million light years, it's so easy to just say a million light years. But whenever that's traveling at the speed of light, which nothing can do besides light, for a million years, what organism is capable of doing that? And how would they create this technology to traverse that long expanse? I would say that it's like the way that the human race is going. Stephen Hawking said that every advanced civilization will hit a climax where they're either going to fall or they're going to become an extraterrestrial. More than likely, we're probably going to fall. Is becoming symbiotic with machines, and then eventually a machine. Because a machine could survive all that time in that dead space. I don't even think we know how cold it gets out there.
Yeah.
And so whenever you get...
that's just one aspect too, is like temperature, but there's so many different possibilities of things that could happen in different climates and different, like, anything, you know? Like, what is possible... what is possible...
Yeah,
like, a lot of people spend most of their lives in one city, one state, one country, you know?
Yeah.
You think of the possibilities on the other side of the world right now. Think about it. What are the possibilities on Mars? What are the possibilities on one of the gas giants? But then you go, the solar system, the universe is so much bigger, so much more vast than that.
Literally billions upon billions of galaxies.
We can't even see the entire universe. Like, we don't even know, have an understanding of how big it actually could be.
Right, and in the idea of infinite... is it infinite string theory, where there's just like constant universes, like parallel universes? Like, there's definitely, I guess I retract what I said earlier, there's definitely a huge possibility that if you just had the resources given to you and the right minds available at the time, that you probably could come up with some sort of technology that could break light and essentially just like be at one portion of the universe and just snap to another portion of it.
Yeah. There's a lot of technology that we're doing now, a lot of advancements that we're doing now. But what are the advancements that are happening that we don't know about, that could be possible, but they're withheld?
Oh, dude, that...
Like, think about, like, the Nikola Tesla stuff.
Yeah.
All that stuff. All those inventions and stuff. Think about, like, possibilities of some of that stuff actually being real.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the new form of, like, warfare, almost. Like the Cold War with the arms race and whatnot. Now it's just like evolved into who knows what. And I'd imagine there's all kinds of shit that we could only begin to fathom.
That wouldn't even be used. They wouldn't, like, some of the destruction, like, weapons wouldn't even have to be used. Like, there would be... What would the sense be if you went to war with... Say we went to war with, like, a third world country that doesn't have any. We wouldn't have to use our best stuff. Like, the only reason something big and powerful would ever come out is if there's a world war.
Yeah. Well, if World War happens, we're all fucked. That's the end.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, have you seen what the Tsar bomb is? Dude, it's like, they do, like, a scale, bro. And, like, the mushroom cloud for the Tsar bomb is like this big, and then they have a couple other ones. They have the hydrogen, etc., etc. And then at the very bottom, they have a circle, and then the circle is blown up to show Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And they are ants in comparison to the amount of power.
Yeah.
The TZAR bomb. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you use that's everything's gone.
Yeah.
Because once somebody uses one, everybody's using them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how can they do... That would have to... What, the United States drops one over here, and that's it? We're the only people left?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Okay.
And whoever decides to launch one is immediately going to be the enemy. Yeah. And they're going to get bombed the fuck out of, too.
Who's going to take on, like, there's not going to be anybody left.
Yeah.
Say the United States drops one in, like, Asia area. What does that take out? Pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
You got Australia, South America, Canada. Like, who's really left?
And the thing is like, whenever you get into, like, the geopolitics and you get into, like, warfare and whatnot, like, you can reference a third world country and be like, oh, if we bomb them, who's really, like, you know, it's just a third world country. But the thing is, that third world country might be super useful. It's the same way that, like, North Korea is one of China's allies. China wants North Korea to be around because North Korea is a big purchaser of Chinese goods.
Yeah.
So if you wiped out North Korea, China's economy is hit hard. They don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So just by starting shit with one little country that you wouldn't think would have any consequences, well, obviously there's always going to be consequences, is that now everybody's getting involved.
Yeah. How do you how does a war happen at this point in time? Like how do you, if you know you have the means to take out somebody else, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, like, what would be the reasoning to stop that besides you're gonna kill the whole world, basically? I mean,
I don't think we're gonna get into a new world war. Not to like sound like, I know that there's people that think like, oh, Russian bots, Russian collusion, and whatnot. Well, there is a tactic, and we use it too. The CIA uses it, the KGB back when they were around, they use it, China uses it, UK uses it, all the superpowers use it, called idealistic subversion, or I might have those two words swapped out, it might need to be vice versa. Where essentially, with the introduction of technology and social media, I don't think we're ever going to drop bombs in a world war sense, but what this tactic is that they infiltrate a foreign country and they create divisiveness and they infiltrate education systems and whatnot, and essentially they have different phases in which they do this. It's like, perfect example is that one of the biggest Black Lives Matter Facebook pages, one of the ones that was preaching like a lot of the radical shit, was on a Russian IP. You know, I mean, you can have a VPN that could put you in Russia, or it could just be a Russian IP.
yeah.
And like, I think that is the new face of warfare. And think about what's happening in America with how divided it is. And like, they were raiding the White House, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just infiltrate subtly and allow the country to just destroy itself from the inside. That's the
Yeah.
new face of warfare.
Yeah, there's so many tactics with just the technology that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there doesn't even, soon, I think we're gonna come to a point where there doesn't need to be any real weapons, you know? It's more like a mental thing.
Or we're gonna,
This is what you basically explained.
yeah, I mean,
There wouldn't have to be any, like, what do you, I mean,
drones, machines, sending
Yeah.
robots to kill each other.
yeah, like a drone. We already have that now. They're taking
Yeah.
out terrorists and stuff like that. But what do you really need somebody on the ground for?
Right.
What do you need somebody? And that's the thing.
Military-industrial complex won't allow war to ever stop.
I know you're pretty big into guns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am too. Like, I'm a big advocate. I don't understand not being able to have weapons, because what is there to really stop? You know, even if that just gives us a sense of like clarity, you know, like I feel protected because I have a gun. Even if it's that, like, why would you not want that?
Yeah. It's more so, I mean,
I get why. I have an understanding why they don't want guns. Like, I do and I don't. You know, I understand why it's bad for certain people to have guns.
Right.
You know, but I also understand why it's good for the majority of people that have good values to have them.
yeah, it's a stalemate of the conversation whenever you get into gun control, because they're never going to get rid of the Second Amendment, because they're just not going to. So when these mass shootings happen, and they're obviously horrible, all they do is they tweak the law just a little bit. They have to do something to satisfy people. A lot of people don't remember that ARs were actually banned in the United States for the longest time. Pretty sure, I want to say Clinton, whenever he was president, he allowed you to purchase AR-15s again. There's so many guns in the United States that if you were to pass some sort of legislation that would like ban them, not even effectively ban them, a lot of people think magazine capacity has something to do with mass shootings. Or, I mean, I don't know how much truth there is to that. Or even if you got rid of the ARs with their 30-round magazines, I mean,
Yeah.
if I'm going to shoot a place up, then I'm just going to go grab my Glock with a 30 stick
Yeah.
and do the same amount of damage.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to start banning weapons, why why certain weapons. Like, I get why they say they're the worst, but really, all you need is things from the grocery store to make like your own homemade bomb. Like, you go to Walmart and make your own bomb.
You can go to Bass Pro Shops and literally buy explosives. Tannerite. You shoot it with a high-powered rifle, which doesn't require magazine capacity at all. Bolt action rifle can do that, and you can literally
you can get a muzzle
blow shit up. Yeah,
you know,
it's all readily available.
Yeah. So why they want to ban AR-15s, or they want to take any kind of weapon away? Like, what is that really stopping? Like, you're just gonna get people with more creative ways into doing it. Like, somebody that's not saying the way I look at it is more, it's a mental health thing. We need to fix mental health.
Yeah, it boils down to one of the biggest problems our country has is healthcare and the availability of it. Those kids or guys that do these mass shootings, a lot of times, then you get into like the medication and like background checks. Background checks do work and they are helpful and they do stop felons from getting guns, but then a felon can just go pay somebody else to get it for him through a straw purchase. And you're going to get to like the territory of it's nobody's business to know whether or not you're taking certain kind of medications. And the FBI, I don't know that you're ever going to get around that particularly. So a lot of people, rather than treating the root of the problem, they just want to get rid of the weapon and do nothing about the problem.
Yeah, because I also get this point is if you have teachers that have CCWs and they're able to carry, that's somebody, or you have any kind of security, and that pretty much stops the need to, like, you know, it stops the shooter, you know, basically.
I don't know. I don't think anybody has the answer. I don't know that arming teachers is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, security systems in schools, that helps, but like, there's nothing to actually stop anybody from doing anything, like, in all reality. If somebody has the means, somebody wants to do something, they can find a way. That's just
It's the same thing that's happening in Chicago. Like, Chicago has the strictest gun laws, but has the most amount of gun homicides.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that happened in France, in Nice. Remember that? Where that truck plowed through that parade and killed like 80 people?
Yeah,
exactly. No weapons found there. It was just a sick person.
Like, anything can be a weapon.
Yeah.
Really.
And, I mean, and regardless, like, there's always loopholes. Like, my AR is completely functioning on a loophole. And that's because I built it myself to get around the laws.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Because I know I'm not going to do anything bad with it. It's just like...
protection, right?
Exactly.
And, like, I don't see why... I don't know how to say that. If people say the government is corrupt as it is, why would we not want something to protect us from the government? Like, even though we have, like, pretty much 0% chance that we would ever be able to fight off the U.S. military.
Well, that's an argument for, like, well, what are you going to do? They got AC-130s, they've got tanks and whatnot. Look at Vietnam. A bunch of farmers that, for the most part, hadn't seen weapons. And Vietnam won. We got our asses kicked. So never dismiss how effective small arms actually are.
Yeah, I mean...
Now, granted, they probably crush us.
Yeah, like...
But
it's just that sense of security, like, what if I need to be protected for that reason there, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
what is a pistol gonna do to somebody with an AK-47? You need something in order to take on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just, there's not an answer. And I mean, if you were to ban ARs, like if the ATF or National Guard came knocking on my door and they wanted my guns, hopefully I would have figured out a solution by then to just give them something like a substitute. Like for my gun, like I built mine. And so whenever I bought mine, I bought the lower receiver as quote unquote other. You're not buying a rifle, you're buying other. And then I built it into a pistol configuration. They call it a pistol, it functions just like an AR. The thing is that I wanted a shorter barrel than the 16-inch barrel. So that's why I got an AR pistol. I would probably just buy another frame. Take the serial number that I had on my AR. Now this is all hypothetical, would never actually happen. I'm not saying I'm doing this. This is all just, take the serial number off of my actual AR, put it on the lower receiver that I just bought, stash my AR, and whenever the ATF comes looking for it, hand them the lower receiver and just be like, I never got a chance to build it. Here you go.
Yeah.
And then the serial number, as far as they're concerned, they got it.
Yeah. See, and you don't think that criminals have figured out a way to think about that? So, like, and all the guns that they don't even know about. Like, you think about some of the shady deals that happen. Have you ever seen War Dogs with Jonah Hill in it?
I love that movie.
That is a great movie.
I love that fucking
But
movie.
how do you know that something like that isn't happening in the military, isn't selling into private companies? Like,
Right.
or to people in, like, you know?
They definitely are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same way in Syria. I mean, whenever we make no mistake, we were involved with that. CIA was involved with that. The same way we're involved with all these proxy wars is whenever we overthrew Assad, we took those guns and we gave them to Syrian rebels, and those weapons just so happened to make it into the hands of ISIS.
Okay. Here's another thing that goes right along with it. If we do go in a war with our military, well, first off, these are people that we know.
Yeah.
But they're going to follow commands because that's what they're trained to do. I mean, if they all stick to it, that's a different situation. But if they were to all stick to it and we're going up against our own government, what would it take for somebody, a foreign country, to supply us with what we need to take on them?
I mean, it's the same thing as France supplying us during the American Revolution. Whenever we got our independence, France was giving us all those guns because they didn't even give a fuck. They just hated the UK that much.
Yeah, that's all it takes is them to have one reason, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a chance.
I think it would never get that far. I think the media, what so have you, like, they would brand you as a terrorist organization. They would brand you as
Before
white
it got
supremacist.
too
Yeah,
big.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
no matter who is rebelling, they're gonna make that they need everything in the small controlled area. You know?
Exactly.
Like, it needs to be just enough chaotic so that they can put whatever they want inside.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
This whole podcast is probably just gonna get banned.
maybe, or we're gonna get shot. Because we're talking about the military-industrial complex.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you probably shouldn't go into too much detail about what you do. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't get involved. My job has nothing to do with any of that stuff. I just think I always wanted to be a criminal psychologist, and so I'm interested in the dark side of humanity, and that's just one of those things. Like, whenever you look at, like, the Proud Boys, they call them white supremacists, but the founder's a Cuban. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and then they just kind of, they followed that narrative, and now for sure the Proud Boys are white supremacists at this point. Like, when they said that this was racist, I was like, that's just okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I do that to my guys, like, ball gazer, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, now it's white supremacist. That made no sense to me whenever I first heard about it. And then I saw the Proud Boys doing it, and they facilitated. Like, if it wasn't white supremacist before, somebody called it white supremacist, and they adopted it and made it white supremacist, and now that's all it's ever going to be.
It's whatever strings, you know, everything just, like, places itself perfectly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know.
It's hard to actually, like, pinpoint who or what is in control, really. Like, the government for sure has everything to do with what's in control, but who's in control of the government?
The Federal Reserve, the corporations. A lot of people think, like, whenever you see the Federal Reserve banknote, you think, oh, it says federal in it. It must be part of the government. No, that's a private bank. How our economy works, I'm not sure if you knew this, is that, say we need $500 billion, and they need to print it. So we give the Federal Reserve $500 billion worth of government bonds. The Federal Reserve prints us $500 billion. The United States government is expected to pay back that $500 billion with 15% interest. Now, think about what I just said. This money didn't even exist.
It's like a loan.
Yeah, this money didn't even exist until they printed it. Now you're essentially charging 15%. That 15% interest, that money isn't actually out there. It doesn't exist.
So it's an unpayable debt.
Yeah, it's a system of perpetual debt. And once, it's the same concept as, like, don't get in debt to the mob. And make no mistake, all governments are is just really organized gangs with really big guns. Don't get in debt to the mob. The Federal Reserve, a lot of people think our deficit comes from, like, China. No, it's because we owe the Federal Reserve so much money.
Yeah.
The central banking systems, that's what they do to all those other countries. That's why they want all those countries underneath the central banking system, is because once they're in debt, you control them. You can do whatever you want them to do. And that's essentially how globalist policy works.
That's
why
pretty interesting, honestly.
That's why they're trying to take out Iran. Because they won't comply.
I mean, who's really the bad guy in that point, though?
Iran. Iran does some pretty, you know, they're beheading gay people, throwing them off of buildings, and, you know,
everything else.
Yeah, all the other horrible things that they do.
Yeah. If you watch the news too much on any platform, any news network, whatever, you look at life a different way. You know, like,
Yeah.
You have that's such a negative thing. Like, there's so many. Sometimes I think it's better to live in a simple world and not get too caught up.
Right.
Like, you
Ignorance
saying
is
that
bliss.
you're going into all these like rabbit holes, which I don't even know. You don't call them that. But you go
Yeah.
into all these little aspects and you're trying to learn about every little thing that's happening and try to make it add up.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be real negative. You need to, like, small world is, like, if I was, ignorance is truly a bliss. Easiest way to put that.
Well, I mean, it's not like, it used to bother me, like, whenever I was younger. I was like, oh, wow, there's so much terrible things going on in the world. But at this point, it's just like, again, I have a dark heart. It's just
It's
theater
going to
to
happen.
me.
Like,
It's just theater. I just watch it. That is my entertainment. It's not even just like world news. It's just like, I'm a
Everything.
huge history buff. I like following warfare, etc. And it's just, now is a better time than ever to
Yeah.
follow this shit because there's so much going on.
yeah. What's that big guy's name that got banned from YouTube? I don't know.
There's a lot of them nowadays.
A big bald guy.
Alex Jones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him talking. Okay, not his voice, because I can't stand his voice. But him.
The world's ran by secret underground psychic pedophiles.
Yeah.
Turn the frickin' frogs gay. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. But him getting banned, that's just like. I don't know.
Well, he was saying that one I agree with because he was saying some crazy ass shit.
But
Dude.
so-
he was saying Sandy Hook was fake, dude.
Yeah,
Those
some
were
of-
crisis actors, like all kinds of shit.
Some of the stuff he does say, though, kind of makes sense.
Well, a lot of the shit that he was right about. I mean, he talked about Bohemian Grove in the '90s, and then like
Yeah.
he goes and he like
Actually
has
went. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like the world's most powerful people worshiping this Moloch, the owl god,
Yeah.
where they burn an effigy of a child, and it's a biblical reference in the Bible. It says, "Don't feed not your children to Moloch,"
Yeah.
and it's just like he said that they weren't doing anything terrible, but it's also just like, what the fuck are you people doing here?
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. And the shit that he talks about, like a quick Google search, like verifies it.
Yeah.
Some of it.
He's.
A lot of it's very.
Yeah. I mean, but who knows? It could be one of those things that's true that he's just. They just scrape under the rug, you know? Like, it's hard to know what is. If you take into consideration Google has the ability to erase some of the things on Google,
Yeah.
like, what's real and what's not at that point.
Yeah.
When,
They removed like over 100,000 negative reviews of Robinhood.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, if you have the ability to do that, what else do you have the ability to just toss away?
Mm-hmm. I think with him, he just went a little bit too deep. He let it become too much of a part of his life to the point where everything was conspiracy.
Yeah.
And to the point where like he couldn't even differentiate a tragedy like a school shooting from his own delusions of conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's where you just got to be healthy about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. He talked about it. Like, he was like, I was in a dark place, like, but I was so wrapped up in this that the outside world all is just like everything added into this and fed into this and fed into this. Like, yeah, you would get trapped into that. Like, that's scary.
And I mean, he's got good cause for concern. I mean, with JFK, whenever he got popped, they had blew the whistle on Operation Northwoods. And Operation Northwoods, Cuba, again, not underneath the central banking system, communist. Operation Northwoods, the CIA was going to arm. I don't want to say Cuban friendlies because that's the opposite of what they were trying to do. They were going to arm certain militia groups in Cuba, and then through them or through their own agents, they were going to bomb schools. They were going to shoot up movie theaters. Your United States government was going to do this as an excuse to go to war, and they were going to blame all these shootings and bombings on the Cuban government, Fidel Castro. JFK blew the whistle on that. Now you're fucking with the military-industrial complex, and you get your head blown off. And even Oswald, whenever he got arrested, he's screaming, "I'm just a patsy. I'm just a patsy. I didn't kill the president." And then Jack Ruby comes along and shoots him as he's getting arrested.
No.
You know, it's just like, where's the conspiracy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's to anybody on the outsides, most people are like way more than majority. Like probably of that 1%, even less are locked into what is actually going on.
Right. I mean, the wealth of information is so readily available, and I feel like that, again, is the face of future warfare, is that the information that I'm talking about is like, again, it's not a conspiracy. I mean, the JFK shooting, I guess, is a conspiracy, but the Operation Northwoods and how we planned on invading Cuba, that's not.
Yeah.
And
is it a conspiracy, or is it just an assumption of something that could possibly be true? Like, it's just one of those things that's not confirmed. Like, did you watch Social Dilemma? Movie on Netflix?
I haven't renewed my Netflix up.
Okay, but everything that you think that is bad about social media is basically what this movie is. Everything that anybody thinks bad about social media is what it confirms, like, pretty much.
Yeah, I heard that the YouTube algorithm, like, they look for certain words like slurs and, whatever the mind can come up with, and that it actually, like, I don't want to say sponsors it, but it, like, recommends those videos because it creates views. Views create ad money.
They say that we are the product. Your attention is the product that the platform is selling to the business almost,
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to explain. Like, businesses are buying the product of us, our attention.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, it's not like we don't ask for this shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
we want things to be as easy as possible. We want things to be at our fingertip. We want things to be instant.
I mean, it's the same reason I follow the world news. I mean, it's like a car accident. You can't look away. I mean, I'm not any better than anybody else just because I'm able to recognize this shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is attractive. There's just something in the human condition that makes you want to see that shit.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, not to get into like the deep, dark side of the internet, but I've seen some pretty fuck shit on the internet. Whether it's from ISIL or the cartels down south. They do horrible shit to people.
Have you ever seen like the stuff on the dark web? Have you ever been on the dark web?
Do you want a backstory? Because we
got time.
me and my buddy, whose name shall not be named, poor kid, his life, it really like fucked his life up. Back in the day, I'll speak my truth. I used to be a drug addict, hard. Me and my boy, we were trapping off the internet.
I actually think you told me this story.
Yeah. Did you want me to tell it again for the potty?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so me and him were trapping hard off the dark web. And I mean, it's so bizarre to see the criminal network. Like, there's hitmen advertising their services, like $25K a pop a head. And any drug, any illegal activity you want is readily available. They were selling uranium ore on there. Now that seems like an FBI sting.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you wanted to,
could have been.
Just buy some uranium ore.
Yeah.
And so we...
What is that used for?
Bombs.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wasn't entirely sure.
But you can buy bombs on there. You can buy pipe bombs. You can buy whatever you want on there. Fully automatic weapons. I mean, explosives, you name it, grenades, it's all right there if you got the money for it. And we were using Bitcoin. Now, mind you, back at the time, Bitcoin was only about $270. If my dude held on to any of those Bitcoins, he's rolling right now.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. So we were moving a decent amount of weight on the dark web, and it all just came like crashing down pretty quick. And it's weird how, before I get to that, I'll get to this. I'll say how it works. So essentially, you meet the vendor, your drug dealer. They send you an encrypted email that the only person that has the password is you and the vendor. That's how you distribute your information, your address, and whatnot. It's all anonymous. It's all through cryptocurrency and whatnot. And you pay the bill, and then the mailman hands you your drugs a couple days later. They rate these things on stealth. Like, there's like levels. Like, these vendors have like stats.
Yeah.
Dude, it's fucking weird.
Like reviews, like it's
Yeah,
like Yelp.
dude.
They
But they
get Yelp
can't-
reviews.
They can't say that it's them, and so they'll be like, yeah, I fed this to my dog, and holy shit, it was a wild ride, or something like that. They can't refer to themselves in first person. And so, the vendor that we went to, this is so weird to say, a super cool guy, or gal, or whatever you identify as. We were like, dude, we're super nervous about this, we're just small town kids, we've never done anything like this. And he's like, yeah, bro, I got you, don't worry about it. And he's like, what do you want? And we told him what we wanted. We got 2 hits, because we weren't going to go overboard. We got 2 hits of relatively decent LSD in terms of like dosage. Then we got 2 super powered hits of LSD. We get this from this guy. He had also included mescaline, just for free, just because it was our first time going through them. If you know what mescaline is, that is the active compound in peyote, and peyote is very hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
And so that was
a Native American drug.
Mm-hmm. And that was my first introduction to it. We took all of it at once. We tripped for like 38 hours. It was wild. Then we got a little bit confident and like, dude, we bought this Molly, and he shipped it in a shoebox. And whenever you get the shoebox, you open it up and there's shoes in there. And so like we're hitting this dude up, and
what's up?
we're just like, what's up with the fucking shoes, dude? We just bought it. Wasn't Molly, it was BK MDMA, which if you know what that is, you remember that bath salts?
Yeah.
So the way those RC chemicals work is that the producer knows that they get you high. They just can't obviously sell it as Molly, so they call it bath salts. All it is the MDMA atom with a extra oxygen atom. So the drug, like pot, the plant is not illegal. It's the THC that's illegal. So once you tweak the molecule a little bit, you come up with a new drug that's not illegal. Henceforth, you can buy them at gas stations. That's for K2, that's spice, that's bath salts, that's all that shit. Well, anyways, it's an awesome high. So we got a fuck ton of bath salts, basically. And we're like, dude, what's going on? Like, you just shipped us shoes. And he's like, did you actually like open them? And sure enough, you pull out the soles, and they were all broken up into little 8 balls, baggies in the soles.
Yeah.
And that's how they shipped them. And that's why he had such good stealth on his profile.
Wow.
Yeah.
He probably had more creative ways than just that.
Yeah, I mean, whenever we got our LSD, I thought that this was the craziest shit, dude.
Where were you going with like the full story, I guess? Because you went with like this. You were talking about your friend, I think.
Yeah.
How it led into that. How it messed up his life.
Yeah, essentially, I mean, we found it to be, rather than get the legit shit, I was touching on the RCs and the Beta Coda, MDMA and whatnot, the bath salts and whatnot, to get to this. We found it cheaper to get these RCs rather than get legitimate Molly or speed or coke or what so have you, all just derivatives. Anyways, we got some derivatives from online. It was like 2CB or 2CE or some shit like that. Anyways, I took 2 hits of this stuff. My buddy, he only took 1 hit of this stuff. And I think everything's cool. We're having company over. And they all go downstairs to get some fresh air. They're sitting on the porch and whatnot. And it's me and my boy. And we've tripped hundreds of times, very comfortable around one another. And he starts showing me something on his phone. And it's like, it's nothing. It's like a thumbnail for like YouTube or something, but it's like super zoomed in, so it's very pixelated. And he's like trying to show this to me, and I'm just like, dude, what are you trying to show me right now? And he's just like, did I kill her, Connor? And I was just like, at first it didn't register what he just said.
Yeah.
He's like, did I kill her? And I'm just like, are you good?
It was a bad trip.
Yeah, and I was like, are you good? And he's just like, no, I can't, no. And he gets up, he storms off, he goes downstairs, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, the vibe's just completely 180.
Yeah.
Now I'm scared as fuck, because he's relatively big dude. And he goes downstairs, and he just like sits down on the porch with the rest of everybody, and he's super pissed off, out of nowhere. And I'm just like, what the fuck's going on? And they're like, what's going on, dude? Like, is Connor being weird? I was like, oh, I'm being fucking weird.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about what this guy just said to me. And he's just like, I know why you guys are here. Why don't you just put them on me? You've been watching me from the trees this entire time. I know why you're here. Just put them on me." And it registers in our brain. He must think that we're all cops, and that we're gonna put handcuffs on him, and that we've been putting surveillance in the trees, watching him do all these things. Anyways, we're just like, "Dude, you need to go back inside, like, because you're about to lose it." And of course, he does lose it. He was either in shorts. I don't remember because this was a minute ago. He was either in shorts or just compression shorts. Anyways, this kid takes off running down the fucking street, screaming that he needs help. And this is at like, I want to say like 11 o'clock at night. And screaming that he needs help. Runs down the street, tries to like, bro, it sounds like I'm exaggerating. I shit you fucking not. He runs out in front of this van, screaming that he needs help, runs up to the driver's side door, rips open the door, screaming at this poor woman, like, "Help me! Help!" And she's just like, "Fuck it, bro, you can have it." And he tries to get into this car, and anyway, dude, his brain's fucked, so he's not gonna be able to drive. Yeah. He continues ranting and raving. Eventually, the cops do find him, and the cops just like, "What's going on? Like, sir, like, you need help? What can I do for you?" And he's just like, I just need help." And dude, he looks dead into this cop's eyes and says, "I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna kill myself." He goes for the cop's gun. Cop cold cocks him. He ate it, bro. Like, fell on his ass, got back up, started running, screaming and needing more help. Cops, like, obviously, like, "We need backup."
Yeah.
And they eventually subdue him, dude. And it was like so hopeless to just like watch your buddy just get taken away in this ambulance with all these cops. And we like tried to keep up with this as it's all going down as much as possible. He's in the ambulance and like he's just saying 25 over again. He's like 25, 25, 25, 25. And they're like, "What did you take? Like, we can't help you if we don't know what you took." And he's like, 25, 25. And they're like, "You took 25 hits of acid."
Like, that would make sense, right?
Yeah, dude, it's so bad. They have to stop at the Circle K, and they actually have to get help to restrain him. And dude, the trip only lasted like 5 hours. Yeah. So he would have came to in the hospital just like, "What the fuck did I do?" Next morning, he's just like, "Yeah, I told him everything." He's like, "I told him that we've been trapping on the dark web." They, like, I guess came back. He allowed them go through his house and whatnot. And yeah, they found all the drugs. And this kid was going to be a lawyer, dude. Very highly intelligent. Had like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in like bonds in his bank account for whenever he was really ready to use them. Now he's a felon and he can't be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And he also skipped state because the only way that he wasn't going to go to prison is if he gave up somebody else. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
And that's why he skipped state. Wild shit, bro.
That's actually an insane story. I forgot that you ever told me that story, but now, like, when you started telling me, I was like, yeah, I know this.
Drugs are bad.
Yeah, but I mean, for somebody to be intelligent enough to be able to access the dark web in a manner that you don't get killed, basically, or you don't get caught up in something,
or get hit with like ransomware, something like that.
That's intelligent just to be able to do that. But like, it's an honest mistake if you have that kind of intelligence, like, to not, like, I don't know, it would be hard not to when you know you can do something successfully.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the prices are so cheap on there for like the legit shit. I mean, like, dude, there's so much money to be made on there, and as two young adults, and
even if you think that, how old were you?
Dude, I want to say he was younger than me. He had just graduated. I wanted to say that I was like, because I graduated whenever I was 17. I want to say that I was like 19 or 20.
Yeah, so to be that young, to be able to access something like that, imagine what anybody that's like super intelligent, or they work like the government, imagine like FBI, imagine what they could do on the dark web, or imagine what they already do.
Yeah, I imagine. Most of it's like sting operations.
Yeah.
I would think. Because you can buy people on there.
Yeah. I mean, it could be really anything. Mm. Like, they could be shutting stuff down, but they could also be playing their own routes on things. Like,
yeah.
That's, you know.
I mean, make no mistake. I mean, Gary Webb, who was a homicide detective in L.A., blew the whistle on a CIA operation where Clinton, as the governor of, I want to say it was Arkansas, or it might have been Alabama. It was one of those two states. they were funneling drugs up from Colombia, in which case they would turn it into crack cocaine, and they would funnel it into urban communities. And that facilitates, like, you can get charged with cocaine or you can get charged with crack cocaine, which is two very radically different prison sentences.
Yeah.
And, like, why would the CIA do that? For the prison industrial complex, cheap
Yeah,
forced
and
slave labor.
You think about also anybody that has touched that, like, there's politicians, there's people with mass amounts of wealth that own prisons. There's private prisons, like...
1 in every 3rd prison is privately owned.
Yeah.
That's
and,
wild.
Yeah, it's wild that anybody can own it. Like, if I had enough money to open a prison, and I had all the licensing and things that you need for that, I could own a prison.
Yeah, you're essentially a modern day slave master at that point. Because, I mean, when you look at the 13th Amendment, the 13th Amendment says slavery is no longer permitted unless convicted of a criminal act. And then you look at, like, as of 2014, African Americans only made up 13-point-something% of the population, but made up 90% of the prison population. Now, reread the 13th Amendment. Slavery is now illegal unless convicted of a criminal act. And reference what I just said,
Yeah.
CIA was smuggling crack into urban neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Now we have an explosive prison population of nonviolent drug offenders.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason for it, you know?
And you can do that in any sense, you know?
That's an uncomfortable truth.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
There's a lot of things like that just... It doesn't even have to be... Look at the low-income people that are in prisons. Not even just, like, one race.
Mhm.
If you also look at low income, that's probably, like, majority.
That's what it is. Like, the race baiting shit and, like, the race riots and whatnot, if you can see through this, like, understand that it's a class war.
Yeah.
It's
Honestly, yeah.
It's what it is. Like, it doesn't
How
have
many people in the 1% are their children or their families in prisons?
They never go to prison.
And if they do, they go to a...
They get, like, house arrest.
Or,
some shit.
what are they? Like, celebrity prisons? Like,
Yeah, it's borderline, like, rehab,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Probably better.
Yeah, it's like war dogs. They got caught smuggling all that communist ammunition into that base in Afghanistan, which is illegal because
Yeah.
we had an
Highly,
embargo
yeah.
on weapons from China. And dude, at the end, like, dude only got like 2 weeks of house arrest
Yeah.
and like probation
Yeah.
or some shit like that for committing an international crime.
Those are my favorite, like, best movies in my opinion for me. I actually want to be like a movie critic. Like, that would be the coolest job for me. Because I love just watching movies and stuff. But crime movies, best movies. Like, I think.
Dude.
Like,
Yeah.
I actually went on a list, top 100 movies, and there was 2 different, like, the top 2 things, they rated Godfather as the number 1. And I was like, yeah, that's a great movie.
Me personally, I put Goodfellas over Godfather.
A lot of people say that too.
Goodfellas is fantastic. Ray Liotta in that film, phenomenal.
There's so many good crime movies.
Mm-hmm.
And people, like, it's just now coming back to that. Like, think about, what was that? The new series on Netflix that came out, the one killer guy. Like, serial killers are big now.
The Night Stalker.
No, it wasn't a movie. It was a series.
That's what I'm saying. There's a series about the Night Stalker. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Richard Ramirez?
No, the real...
Mindhunter?
No, it's just this guy's name, and then I think that's what it's called. Like, just his name and files. I can't think of what it's called.
Ted Bundy?
Yeah, Ted Bundy files. There you go.
Yeah. Ted Bundy's an interesting character. I have...
But, like, all these crime stuff are, like, coming back.
Mhm.
Like, people are just now interested in them again.
Yeah. I think it's what we were talking about
Like,
earlier.
people are addicted to... It's hard not to watch.
Exactly what we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of, like, attractiveness. It's... You're repulsed by it, but you don't want to stop watching it.
Yeah.
Especially, like, when you know the shit that those guys were doing.
Yeah, also, like, that one kid, Gabriel something. Dang. I wish I had, like, a list of these, but... Gabriel, like, Hernandez or something. Gabriel...
Richard Martinez, the Night Stalker? Is that who you're thinking of?
No, it's just a kid that his family, like, abused him and stuff
Mm-hmm.
in California. He was really...
I don't know, man. There's so many of them.
And they ended up killing him. Oh, and then all the... What are the people that track like CPS workers, all the social workers,
Child Protective Services.
yeah, all
social
the
workers and
all the CPS and social workers kind of just blew off this case, and like this kid ended up dying when he showed all the signs of neglect and abuse, and basically they knew that they were gonna kill them, kind of like, but they didn't want to be the one to step in.
Yeah, it's ugly, man. You gotta figure like how much of that shit is actually like. I mean, it's definitely still going on, but you gotta wonder like at what
Every day.
volume is it going on?
I don't even think like they put a stop to these things, and it's just like there's gonna be something else. Like there's, it does. People do not stop being bad because bad is what makes you money.
Yeah.
Like money really is the root of all evil, but how do you get rid of money in a society that runs on money?
And I don't even want to say that it's like whatever you like compare like social structures, whether it's like capitalism, communism, socialism, and whatnot. Capitalism is like fundamentally what's most in line with human nature, and I wouldn't even say that it's so much of a money. But to your point, that what you're saying, like even past the money, what are you gonna do about these people that want to fuck and murder kids?
Yeah.
Because those people exist.
See,
and there's always going to be a market for that.
Yeah, that's the mental health thing, but like there's no way around these things. Like they're just too complex for like us to put a stronghold on without offending people, without taking away rights from certain people. Like them trying to pass the bill, wasn't it like pedophiles?
Yeah.
Something about, isn't it in California you're allowed to like,
I think it's like they don't require you to like, well, somebody out there will fact check this. They don't require you to like name yourself as a sex offender. So like you can Google like a local map of sex offenders and whatnot, and it'll show you. I think in California they don't require you to be on that map anymore.
oh, I didn't know it went that far, but I just know that they were trying to protest normalizing pedophilia.
Yeah, it was something along the lines of like the consent age of like something after being like 15. If it was consensual, pretty much statutory rape, that you didn't have to be, you're a registered sex offender, but you don't have to like make it public knowledge. It is public knowledge, but you're not forced to be like.
Yeah. See, I don't know what the action went with that, but I know that there's a bunch of pedophiles and they were like, let's normalize pedophilia, because like all these people feel like they're being targeted. Well, yeah, you're being targeted because it's something that isn't right. Like even if it's illegal, okay, some things that are illegal can still be morally right, but that's not morally right on any concept. I mean,
the argument that they make is that you can be a pedophile and not be a child molester. Pedophilia is like you're attracted to prepubescent kids, but if you don't act on it, then apparently you're not horrible. I think that's the narrative and the PC culture that's being spun.
That's where I get caught up in things like people's views are definitely different. Like saying, and this comes to like a religious sort of thing, is because somebody does this, does that make them wrong? Like if a certain person, a certain group of people believes that murder is right,
Like it's
who
like a rite
are
of
we to
passage.
say that it's wrong? Like where is the like there's no actual proof to anything. Like if you try to not align government and religion together, which is what we're essentially doing,
Or trying our best to do.
yeah, and you want to give everybody fair, how do you say that certain things aren't fair? Like, how do you say that certain things aren't right? Like, what is right and wrong? How do we even, like, go, what feels right to you might not feel right the same to me?
Yeah.
You know, how do we put guidelines? Like, there already is guidelines, but now we're changing all these guidelines.
Yeah, it's just like the idea that morality is subjective. I think that what it boils down to is harm and consent. Is what you're doing hurting someone? And even if it is hurting someone, are they consenting to it? Because there are sadomasochists that like being abused, that want it and whatnot. And there are sadists that also do it, but they do it consensually with sex workers or what so have you.
Yeah.
I think that that's really just the guidelines. Everything else because make no mistake, when you assault a child, you are physically hurting them because they are going to grow up and probably be an offender. You did damage. That's wrong.
It's gonna affect them in some way, one way or
it has
another.
to. There's no way it's not.
Whether if they end up in the system, like right now, I work with mentally disabled people, and a lot of these people grew up in homes where they were abused, neglected, sexually abused, like abused in any spectrum of way, and like that affects these people in ways that they can't even think right. Like they are stuck in a 13-year-old's body, you know, like. Their mind is at that's what I meant. Their mental age is like 13, but they're like 60 years old.
Yeah.
And these are things that are preventable. Like they don't have to be like they. There's a difference between somebody who's naturally, like they're born with a disability, a mental disability, and there's people that it was caused by neglect, abuse, whatever, malnutrition, like anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, what is right? Like, it's real hard once you get into. Everybody, for the most part, has a religious belief. Some way. They have a worldview. That's what a religion is considered. If you look it up, the dictionary definition is a worldview. But who doesn't have a worldview, you know?
Yeah. I think, I don't know, the topic of, like, religion, I used to go all day about it, but, like, when it boils down to it, for me, I'm just an agnostic theist. I don't say that there is a God, but I don't deny that there's a God.
Yeah.
And I also don't think that organized religion is a standard for morality.
Yeah.
Because in the Bible, they talk about waging war just as much as in the Quran they talk about waging jihad.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
what it is. People.
I mean, that's where I'm at. I'm agnostic.
Yeah.
That's what I claim. Just because, like, I'm more of a logical person when it comes to that sense. Like, I like to see what everything is before I were to make a decision. And for me to know everything about every religion, like, for me to actually, like, I would have to sacrifice my life into
studying it.
everything. Like, my whole life would have to be that in order for me to. So I don't think I'll ever be able to, you know, define myself or believe in something fully.
Well, once you, like, label yourself too, like, it's hard to, like, deviate from that label, and I think you do yourself a disservice, almost, and you kind of close
also
your mind
just-
a little bit.
Just being an atheist, like, you are saying that you believe in evolution, but I don't fully believe in that either. There's not concrete proof that that is real.
I don't know, Darwin kind of hit the nail on the head with that one.